looking at the National Party manifestos. We're joined by Bella Hewitt for the Lib Dems. Please do share with our viewers and our listeners all about the Lib Dem Manifesto, what you think of the key points, what's happening in the newly drawn boundary of Fareham and Waterlooville. Let's go from there. So thank you, Bella.
So to introduce myself, my name is Bella Hewitt. I'm standing to be the Liberal Democrat parliamentary candidate for Fareham and Waterlooville. So just very quickly, a little bit about me, who I am and why I'm standing as a Liberal Democrat. I have come with a 30-year career, initially from finance and then into healthcare, where I specialised in health inequalities and socioeconomic reform. I was driven to stand on the national stage to put myself forward to be elected after my experience of running a public advisory team for the central government during COVID. I was so deeply shocked by what I saw, really a lack of attention to detail, a lack of competence, and just a lack of integrity. So that's driven me to stand as a politician. And why the Liberal Democrats? The essence of being a Liberal Democrat is about respecting the freedom of the individual. It is also about a fair deal for all in society. And when you look after all in society, society thrives. And that is, for me, a very strong ethos. It runs through me as a person, as an individual, but it's clearly also what the Liberal Democrats stand for, a fair deal for all in society. So just looking at the manifesto, which was obviously published last week, there are a number of really key policies I'd like to emphasise, but I'd like to do that in the context of the Fareham and Waterlooville residents. We have placed at front and centre of the manifesto for the Liberal Democrats the health and social care policies, along with the cost of living and the environment. So they're the three main pillars of the Liberal Democrat manifesto. And taking that one by one, so in terms of healthcare, that is absolutely critical. And I've obviously come from a very long career and deep insight into healthcare, what's working, what's not working. When you take that to looking at it from the point of view of Fareham and Waterlooville residents, I've been speaking to lots of GPs, to dentists across the constituency, and the absolute messages coming through is morale is at rock bottom. They don't have the money for anything. Money's being cut left, right, and centre, especially around primary care, community care, and in social care. And the hospitals themselves, again, this impact of morale. We don't have a hospital in our area, but we do go to QA just outside our constituency. All the staff that are working there, so many of them, their goodwill has been expended. It's all very well coming out to clap for them during the pandemic, but they need more than that. They need support, they need to be properly paid, and they just need to be respected as absolutely, they are critical. The doctors, the nurses, all the support staff are critical to delivering the healthcare that our country needs. And yet at the moment, everything feels broken. The many hours you have to wait for an ambulance service, the fact you can never get a GP appointment, but there's a complete desert of NHS dentists. And as I say, this is absolutely what I'm hearing back when talking to doctors and dentists and healthcare providers across Fareham and Waterlooville, and talking to residents who can't get an appointment. So we're committed to fixing the NHS, to protecting the NHS, and taking the money that is there in a much fairer way. We must start to invest more in our primary care and preventative healthcare. So if we can actually look after people and prevent them from going into hospital, prevent when they are diagnosed with cancer, ensuring they do get that treatment within the statutory days. And then thinking about the other end of the pathway, when you come out of hospital, the social care that you may need, and thinking about how do we make that function. People don't, we've managed to put through some incredible reforms in Scotland around this. We don't want people to have to sell their homes to pay for their social care. There has to be a better way. And on that perspective, we are looking to invest more into the social care part of the pathway. So that's healthcare, and which obviously also covers NHS dentistry, and it is centre and forefront of what we want to do. The second area, and again, a really big issue for Fareham and Waterlooville residents on two sides, is housing. So we have literally got a lost generation now in this country of pretty much anyone under the age of 40, 45, and people above that age as well, who simply cannot afford to get on the housing ladder. There's just not enough supply. The Conservative government has failed to build the houses that we need. The houses that they have built have been developer-led, often the wrong houses, in the wrong locations, and certainly at the wrong price. Their social housing record is appalling. So the Liberal Democrat, in terms of our manifesto, is committing to building 380,000 houses a year, of which 150,000 will be social housing. This will clearly be involving investment, and I'll talk about how we're going to fund this shortly after I've gone through the key manifesto pledges. And they want to work, and this is something we're already doing on the ground with our local Lib Dem councillors, as a community-led approach. So what we've seen to date under this Conservative government is they've let the developers dictate the terms. They've let the developers maintain their profit margins and not invest in the required infrastructure. So we have the Wellborn Estate. It's a massive development. It's a Conservative urban town development that's going on in our constituency, 6,000 houses. The Conservatives pledged that not a brick would go in until they'd actually sorted out the link road to the motorway at Junction 10 to enable, because it's absolutely critical to have that infrastructure for the amount of houses going in. They committed to social housing within that. The first tranche is about to be released. There's not a single social house in that first tranche of houses to be released. They promised to invest in more doctor surgeries. Again, a broken promise. The residents there are going to be having to go to our existing surgeries in Wickham, and the pressures already on them are immense, as we've just referenced in a few minutes back. So the Liberal Democrats are committed to this house building programme, but equally we are going to be working with the community to ensure that the infrastructure is put in place so that people are much more positive about building in that area. And it's sensitive to local needs, but we have the sewage infrastructure, we have the schools, we have the doctor surgeries. So that's a key part of the Liberal Democrat Manifesto, and again, it really impacts us on the ground. We've also got the Newlands development in another part, west of Waterlooville, in our constituency, which is another area where the local Lib Dem councils have been working tirelessly to get the local developers there to actually build the roads. They've sold the houses 3-4 years ago from some of their chances. There are no roads. So our Liberal Democrat run council in Winchester said we will not give a certain developer any more projects until that is done. So we've been holding these developers to account. The third area that is very important to the Liberal Democrats is the cost of living. And the cost of living is a crisis that is impacting everyone up and down the country. We've had 3 official food banks that have been set up in the last few years, absolute indictment of Conservative policies. And as we know nationally, there are 3 million families living in poverty. That's, nearly 1 million children. It is devastating, and we have to address this. So the Liberal Democrats are committed to ensuring that the windfall tax on the oil and gas companies is actually an ongoing event. It's not just a one-off. We really need to. They've taken so much margin and profit in their oil and gas energy prices. And we're also committed to working with local businesses on business rate relief and actually changing that whole way of charging local businesses in the high streets and how we can help them thrive. We've pledged to lift the 2-child cap. This is what the experts say. It's the quickest, most effective way to lift children and families out of poverty. We'd love to do more in that space, but that 2-child cap is an Osborne initiative. Labour are committing to keep that in place. The Liberal Democrats are not. Our pledge is to remove that 2-cap policy. And it's the final area that's really important to us, the Liberal Democrats, and that's the environment. There's been over 800 sewage dumps last year, over 26 sites across the Meon Valley and the Fareham wards. That is nearly 9,000 hours of sewage just being dumped into our rivers. Our Meon River is a very precious chalk stream. It's now ecologically unsound. So we're dealing with that. We're dealing with issues, obviously, in terms of this. We've got a coastal part to us. It's coastal flooding. No thought's really been given to the long-term plan around that. So that's some very key local issues for us. But, Liberal Democrats, the environment, the green economy, that is a really core part of our manifesto. And we look to be leading the way in the world around this. We commit to a net zero, and we want to be investing in skills and the right type of jobs that is going to lead the green technology revolution and innovation in this country. And the last time in the coalition, we were the ones, Liberal Democrats, who pushed for the wind farms. Conservatives stopped that when we left the coalition. So we feel passionate about this. We're in a climate change emergency, and we have to address that, but we can do that in a constructive way that helps provide really exciting, well-paid jobs and make sure that the UK is leading in the green revolution going forward. So just a final point on, everyone says that's great. How are you going to cost this? You're spending 28 billion over and above other parties. We have a very, very detailed cost of part of our manifesto, and I'd recommend everyone to go and have a look at that. But I think the key thing here is that we are looking at fairer taxation across the board. We want those with the broader shoulders to actually take on a bigger share. We've created more billionaires in the last 3 to 5 years than at any other time in UK history. And we know that many of them are not paying their fair share of tax. We're going to reform the capital gains tax. So again, there's fairer taxation for those with the broader shoulders. We're going to be working with the larger companies to work on how can they actually contribute more as, these big offshore online companies, how are we going to tighten up those tax loopholes, that tax avoidance? We can't take people out of the fiscal drag, but we can start to halt that fiscal drag that is bringing more and more people on lower incomes into tax brackets, but also thinking about innovative, clever ways. So there's a share buyback tax of 4% that we propose to bring in for FTSE 100 companies. What's been going on, and actually really over the last 40, 50 years, is these larger companies are maximizing their profits. They're then putting that into share buybacks, which means that they actually pay themselves. Often the chief executives will have massive share options in their companies. So they're almost essentially paying themselves these massive profits rather than investing them back into building more factories or more capacity or more productivity. But please take a look at our manifesto. The detailed costing is there. I think, the Liberal Democrat vote is for a fairer, strong, Liberal voice at the national level in Parliament. It's about holding water company bosses to account. It's about holding people accountable and making sure that we actually all work together in a much more collaborative way to create a fairer, thriving society. Collaboration, cooperation, and a fair deal for all. So if you want to vote Liberal Democrat on the 4th of July, that is what you're voting for.
For the full list of candidates for Fareham and Waterlooville, for the Conservative Party, Suella Braverman, for Labour, Gemma Furnivall, for the Liberal Democrats, Bella Hewitt, for the Green Party, Baz Murray, for Reform UK, Kevin Chippendall-Higgin, for Rejoin EU, Edward Dean, and for Hampshire Independence, Robert Holliday. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Pompey Politics Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow and comment on Facebook, or comment and subscribe on YouTube. Don't forget that bell notification icon so you get your notification when we're next live. We usually go live 6:27 p.m. on a Sunday evening. Find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, X, YouTube, Threads, LinkedIn. Don't forget to have a look at our website where you can find details of all of our previous and upcoming shows. That's pppodcast.uk, pppodcast.uk. Thank you. Feel free to leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you can even ask Alexa to play the podcast for you. Alexa, play the latest episode of the Pompey Politics Podcast.
Getting Pompey Politics Podcast from Amazon Music.
Alexa,
Playing the latest episode.
stop. See? It's easy.